Welcome to the Informed Pregnancy and Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Elliot Berlin, and I'm joined by today's co-host, wardrobe stylist, mom, and brutally honest friend,
Just to fill it in,
Kacy Byxbee. Welcome back.
Thank you. Long time no see.
I know. It's been at least
5 minutes.
I thought 8. And our guest today, actor, writer, comedian, podcaster, and mother to 1.5 babies, not necessarily in that order, Kacy Wilson.
Hi.
We have 2 Kacys. It's going to be amazing.
I know.
It's going to be so confusing.
It's not
That's
confusing
what
at
I
all
said.
because they're spelled differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kacy
You're
with a K.
Kacy like a Kardashian with a K.
Yes.
And I'm with a C.
Exactly.
That's why your parents did it, I heard. So you have like 1 million credits from TV and sitcoms, and you write and you produce and you podcast. What don't you do?
Cook, clean.
Oh, good.
And all your spare time.
A lot. Thank you guys for having me. I'm very
I
excited
know
to be
where
here.
you came from because I didn't know about you, and then all of a sudden I'm like the last one.
I don't think so.
I really do.
I don't think so.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Virginia, right outside Washington, D.C., about 5 minutes in Alexandria, Virginia.
You don't have any like Southern in your voice.
Yeah, it's kind of a, people move there typically if they're in politics and they live in the suburbs. It's
Right.
not really like Southern. I
You're,
didn't know I was in the South for some time.
Politically speaking, you're a purple baby,
What does that mean?
right? Because you had like bipartisan parents.
Yes, okay. I didn't know where we were going, but now I get
It's
it.
the red and the blue.
Yeah,
You're a purple
yeah.
baby. What was that like growing up?
My mom was a huge Democrat and women's rights activist, and my father makes political commercials for Republicans.
Okay.
He's a political
wow.
consultant.
I thought you were going to say he was a misogynist. But okay, no. But he just...
No, actually, he's incredibly liberal socially. I think he's the last remaining moderate Republican on earth, and actually, I think he's a really, he's a good guy, and he's not. I don't want to get political, but he's not a Trump supporter. Thank God.
Oh, you're defending him.
But I know it's so ingrained. But yeah, it was interesting. They both are just very passionate people, but socially both very liberal. So I think it kind of we were able to coexist. But a lot of screaming fights and
About politics?
oh yeah.
That's amazing. Did you grow up feeling super political? Or I mean, obviously you're probably more politically aware than most
I think
children.
so. I do think so. My dad, although this is kind of, I ran for office in like 3rd grade, and and he wrote my speech, which is like no one else's father was like, and he had like making posters with me, and we all had to, because he was the campaign manager for my mom, because she was the president of this group called the National Women's Political Caucus to get women elected. I digress. They took that energy and put it into my 3rd grade campaign.
Oh my God.
And it was actually really
Yes.
embarrassing. I did not win.
What do you think went wrong?
I don't know if it was the clothespins that they wrote in marker on the sides, "Win with Wilson," or my dad tried to do humor in the speech. I'll never forget giving the speech and thinking, I don't think this was very funny. I had to say, like, I can't even say it now. His line was that I say, I'm going to put lemonade in all the water fountains. I think the 3rd graders were like, boo. Some better material.
They wanted
You
weed.
didn't know
That's why I had
I'm
to
going
become
to
a
legalize
comedian.
pot starting in 4th grade.
Yeah.
That's so good.
When were you always funny?
No,
When did
I
you
remember.
realize you were funny.
I remember being in the car driving back home from this movie Tremors with Kevin Bacon. That great comedy.
That
And
everyone remembers.
You guys remember Tremors, of
I
course.
still watch it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, when it's on, you're like, how many times have I seen this one?
Oh, and I have the DVD.
But it was, I remember being like thinking, I think that's bad, that movie. And so in the car, we were like really quiet. And I think it's Mary Stuart Mastrione. Like there's some actress in it. And I just did her line in the backseat. I was like, it's totally subterranean about the Tremors, of course. And my parents were laughing. And I was like, oh, it's funny to impersonate people. Like you can get a laugh. So it was all for selfish, arrogant reasons. And then Tremors on, guys. I just became obsessed with Tremors. I put up a Tremors musical now.
Tragedy plus time equals comedy.
Equals Tremors.
Equals Tremors. When did you, after 3rd grade, I don't want to,
Yeah.
we don't have that much time, so fast
The 4th
forward.
grade?
Yeah, to fourth grade. When did you studied acting?
I did, yeah. I studied acting in college. I went to NYU and studied like method acting, serious, performing and
Drama.
drama. Exactly. That's the word for that. And I really enjoyed that, but I also felt similarly that I noticed people were laughing, and then a teacher pulled me aside and said, comedy is. It's interesting because I truly didn't know that was like you could be a comedian in a way. Even though I grew up watching Saturday Night Live, I loved Goldie Hawn and I loved Diane Keaton and Deborah Winger and all these Sissy Spacek, but you wouldn't necessarily call them comedians, and Shirley MacLaine.
Right.
But they're very funny.
Totally.
Yeah. And then my teacher said, comedy, you could go into comedy and I think you could make a career. I was like, money? No. But then I sort of started doing more comedy and then got into the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater.
UCB.
Yeah. And then kind of from there just
Improv?
kept doing comedy. Yeah, improv.
Did you do stand-up too, or were you... Or is that? Did you do that there as well, or it's
I
improv?
never did. For some reason, stand-up always terrified me.
Are you going to break into it?
I think so.
You are?
You're breaking into it, I hear.
I am doing it now.
This
but-
late
God.
date.
Yeah, it's not. Casey's never come to a show. Neither Casey's come to a show. But it's okay.
Well,
Oh, there's always time.
I could do my Tremors bit.
You have 5 minutes on Tremors, I heard.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
I love that you were trying to do drama. And she said, why don't you try comedy?
Yeah, exactly.
But she was right.
I remember people would laugh, I think, occasionally when I came out, thinking I was going to do something funny. And then in my head, I'm like, this is a suicide scene.
Yeah. Well, if you could make suicide funny.
Oh, God.
What was the first big comedy?
The first movie I ever did was I was working an office job and I auditioned for Your Consideration. This it's called For Your Consideration. This Christopher Guest movie, and I got a part, a very small part, and I was so thrilled to do it because I love Waiting for Guffman and all his movies, and it was so thrilling. And I thought, I was really like, well, I'm going to throw a match behind me and the rest of my life. Like, I'm a star. And I had about 2 lines. And
There were 2 great lines.
yes, and then, experienced the ups and downs of the business, as we all well know from there. Yeah, just auditioning. And around that time, my writing partner, June Diane Raphael, and I did a 2-woman comedy show, and then we didn't have agents, and this agent said they wanted to meet with June and I after seeing our show, so we were like, again, we're stars. Anything that happened, June and I were like, hello, Julia Roberts and Meg Ryan. Like,
Did
we're
you need that water? Wow.
stars. Yeah. Like, based on nothing, we were like straight to the top. And so we went to meet with these agents and we were like all dolled up and my hands were like shaking. I was like, this is it. And I'll never forget, the woman was like, and she represents us to this day. She said, listen, we're so interested in signing you girls as writers. And when I tell you, you could, the room, we were like, you what? Writers? We went to the bathroom. I was like, she thinks we're ugly. It was very dark. And June's like, okay, this must be some mistake. Like, get a hold of her. We have to get, this is a nightmare. But we actually started writing from there. And it was just kind of one of those things of like going to your yeses, I guess. And we ended up writing this movie, Bride Wars, from that and kind of getting into writing, but it wasn't really a plan. And in fact, we thought it was an insult. Now it's one of the great joys of my life and what I'm most proud of, but it was funny at the time.
Yeah, and you still write.
We do, and we still write
you still
together.
act,
Yeah.
And you produce.
Yeah.
And now you're reproducing.
Exactly. Great segue.
Thank you very much. This is your second pregnancy?
Yes.
And how old's your first?
He is almost 2 in 3 weeks.
Okay.
And you met your husband like 2 and 4 weeks ago. Is that true?
I did.
It's like all very close.
It's all very new.
How long have you guys been together?
We are going to celebrate 3-year wedding anniversary in May.
3-year wedding and 2.5 birthday and a half a year of birth.
I'm old, in case anyone doesn't notice.
No,
but
notice.
we met later in life, and you just kind of, not later in life, but kind of get going. So we just thought,
ran for it.
Yeah, and I actually not oddly, but many women find this out. I had my fertility checked and had very low fertility. I was kind of surprised to find out, and
Well, you checked before you started trying?
I did.
Just to see where,
I did because I
is that
knew I really wanted kids. but I wasn't ready for them. So I thought,
What would that check do for you? To see how long it might take and plan it?
No, well, it actually really helped me because I went into my OBGYN, who I love. Are we allowed to say doctor's names?
Who?
Dr.
Yeah.
Karen Morse-Sulky, who's been so wonderful to me. And I was just...
What's her phone number?
It is... I actually have it. This poor woman rused the day she gave me her cell phone number. I'm always
We all do.
I know. Everyone does. But anyway, I was saying to her kind of almost arrogantly, like, I don't want kids for a couple of years. But and she was kind of like, how old are you? And no, she didn't say it like that. But she said, well, I don't know. I guess it's a parenting podcast, so it's fine to say. But
Yeah.
she's like, well, if you happen to be on your period, we could just test your fertility. And I said, okay. And then she called me the next day, and it was a Saturday. And she said, I have to say, I would never call you unless I felt it was serious. You have incredibly low fertility for your age, and I just don't want to see you disappointed. So I made an appointment with you with Dr. Andy Wong, another miracle worker in this town. You can catch him on such shows as Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Ah,
He's Kim K's. Every doctor I have is more successful than me, by the way. Except for you. No, I'm kidding.
thanks. No, it's okay.
I'm just kidding.
My parents were both Democrats.
That's why you need a Republican in the
I'm
mix.
looking for handouts.
Yeah. But anyway, they just said I had low fertility, and he kind of said, pretty frankly, I'm not worried now, but I think if you want to have more than one kid, if I were you, I would start trying. And I'm really glad I kind of actually took that step because, you just never know.
And you had just met your husband at this point?
No, we had just gotten married.
Okay.
Yes, at least.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, we just gotten married, but I still wasn't in that headspace.
Right.
So, but then it didn't take very long.
Well, then I froze some embryos, and I have 3 kids in Redondo Beach right now in a storage facility.
Oh,
Kicking
really?
it.
In an ice freezer, but they're by the beach.
Oh, that's really nice.
It's gorgeous.
You paid for the beachfront rental.
Yeah. But then I ended up getting pregnant naturally, which maybe people would think, oh, I shouldn't have done it. But I was kind of freaked out by the news, and I'm glad that, and I might, want to have a third, and it kind of eased my mind as
Right.
a working woman and just,
Yeah. It's nice. So,
sorry, can I ask you one question before we move on? But
5.
I didn't realize until I heard someone talking about it, but that's a pretty painful process. Isn't it, freezing embryos?
It is. I think,
it's retrieving them.
I have such respect for people
you
that
gotta use medication to stimulate extra
and you
growth.
get, you do the shots, and then they retrieve the eggs, which it wasn't as physically bad for me because I don't hardly have any eggs, which is why I was doing it. But I have such a profound respect for anyone going through that process, because especially people who, it's a heartbreaking process, and it can be, and it's obviously physically hard, but I could cry even talking about it. Just people have been through a really hard time, and it's I just have such respect for people going through it, because it is a really emotionally taxing and physically taxing, and there's nothing more, than a miracle of a child, and that's what you want. And so it's just a really, I don't know, it's not what you asked, but it's not easy, yeah. And I'm blessed that I had a good result, but, it's very hard.
Right. I think it's hard for a lot of people because based on what their mother told them, if they sat too close to a guy in the back of the car, they would get pregnant.
Yeah, and you spend so much time trying not to get pregnant.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you don't really think you're going to have to spend time trying to get pregnant.
No.
How was your first pregnancy?
It was good. I was on a TV show and working 14, 15 hours a day, actually, with our friend, Sarah Wright Olson, who was so wonderful to me. It was difficult working those hours, and
How deep into the pregnancy were you?
The first week I started the show, I got pregnant, and so it was just physically draining. I never have hit a wall like that, where I'm someone that likes to push myself just in life, but the interesting thing about pregnancy to me is that your body's saying, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. You're done.
You're not in charge.
And even if your brain is but I want to, it's no, you must have a random crew member drive you home and sleep in your costume.
But how long so the first week you got pregnant, and then how long into your pregnancy
Well, then I was mad at Dr. Morse and Dr. Wong, because I'm you made me do this, because I thought this was going to take, so long, and I have my beautiful son.
Yes.
From there.
But you were filming how deep into your pregnancy?
I filmed throughout my whole pregnancy, actually.
Oy vey. But the story wasn't in
No,
your...
the first show I did was about through 4.5 months until we hit it. Then I took a month or two off, and then I did a ridiculous series called Hotwives, which is a parody of The Real Housewives, and I played a pregnant woman.
Oh, okay.
Up until my due date. But that was fun because it was a white trash character, so I just wore flip-flops and muumuus.
Awesome.
And pretended to smoke. It was great.
Did she give birth on the
Yeah,
show?
yes.
She did?
Well, not only gave birth to Joe Berlin, because it was a parody, obviously. I was at a pool party. And my baby shot out of my vagina and knocked over a woman, and then I kept on dancing and having sex in a hot tub.
Oh.
And it was remarkably like my own.
How does that compare? I was wondering.
Yeah.
To Dr. Morse sulkies.
Yeah. Oh, for genuinely asking.
Well,
No.
sure. I mean, so you didn't really have a chance to feel too miserable in your pregnancy, or just
No,
busy?
and you actually helped me so much.
Thank you.
Sarah suggested you, and how did you two meet?
Through Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah. I don't really know
Sarah.
anybody
Sarah, she's like the nucleus of the universe.
of everything.
And she's so great because she'll always present the most healthy option.
Oh yeah.
Sarah's always just so non-judgmental when she saw me coming to work with like Cheetos and Diet Coke. She was like, like tears rolling down her face as she was smiling.
Secretly trading out your snacks.
Yeah. She saw me like
brought
hiring
these for
help,
you.
like getting nannies while I was pregnant. She was like, "Are you gonna see your baby at all?"
What did you do to get ready for birth?
What did I do? I mean, I worked out a lot, I guess.
For strength and endurance?
Yes,
Okay.
for strength. And, I gained a ton of weight. And that was my plan. No. That's what I did.
Well, did you
It
gain
seemed
weight
to what I did
because
was I
you were
ate.
eating for 2, or did you gain weight?
Dr. Berlin, I ate for 100.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Okay.
When the baby came, I do remember saying to my husband, like, I was like, everyone's going to see what a big baby I've been carrying. And the doctor was like, 6 points, 6 pounds. I was like, okay. So it was very humbling. But I worked out a lot, so I thought that meant I could eat whatever. And I think as being an actress, I was so used to, working out and having to restrict so much that I felt very like, this is my girlfriend told me, she said, this is your time. She's an actress. She's like, this is your time. You just do whatever. And I thought, yeah.
So liberating.
So then I ate everything. And then during that
that?
time, well, as I was eating everything, she had then in that time had her baby and was trying to lose. And I saw her on the street. She goes, forget what I said. And this was like, I was at month 8. She goes, don't do it. It's so hard to get it off. And I was like holding like a drumstick and both a regular chicken drumstick and a ice cream drumstick.
Are you allowed to say which friend that was?
No.
Okay. How was your birth experience?
It was actually wonderful, but strange. I was itching a ton, like leading up to the pregnancy, and I thought it was because I didn't follow one of the pregnancy rules
Leading up to birth?
Birth, I'm sorry, yes. And we had a hot tub. I'm not trying to brag, but we have a hot tub, and I had put my legs in it a lot. Like I would sit out if my husband was in it, and I started itching uncontrollably. So I thought maybe it was like the chemicals, but then I didn't want to tell Dr. Morse because you're not supposed to go in a hot tub, even though it was just my legs. And so, but then one night, about 2 weeks before I was due, I was itching so uncontrollably, and I emailed her and I said, is this normal? And I have to say, to her credit, she wrote me back and said, I want you to go get a blood test at Cedars the next day. And most people would run right out. I ran out to Pitch Perfect 2. And again, ate everything that they had to offer at the ArcLight. And then I went to Cedars at about 8 the next night. I'm a more laid-back pregnant person. And so I'm in, like, again, my muumuu and flip-flops. And took the blood test, and we're just waiting, trying to get to more food. I'm like, when can we leave? So, of course, I can eat. And then the nurse came in, and she said, we are going to have to take the baby out right now. You have cholestasis, which is this liver disease that I didn't even know kind of existed. When it's typically you're itching on your palms and your feet. Mm-hmm. And all of these things kind of co-synthesized for me because so I looked it up on my phone really quick. And so they're like, we're inducing you in half an hour.
Oh, my God.
And I was so kind of shocked, especially because my birth class was the next day with Dr. Berlin.
That day? Oh, yeah, the next day. Right.
Hadn't taken a class. But also, my mom had had a stillbirth before me, and it was completely unexplained in the 80s what it was, but cholestasis is incredibly hereditary. And I think that's what it was. Cholestasis, when it goes untreated, is often results in stillbirth. And so it was just kind of this very strange moment of like, I was so grateful Dr. Morse
figured it out right away.
Yeah, and just took the care to kind of say, you better go in and there. But then everybody at Cedars was wonderful and didn't make me feel, they're like, it's just all you have to do is catch it and then everything's fine. Like we're checking the heart rate and the baby, I was induced and it was a great birth, I have to say.
But you didn't knock anybody over.
What do you mean?
With your baby shooting out of you.
No, no.
Oh, well.
No.
Maybe this time.
And good for you, too, for
you got another chance.
Yeah.
Like asking for help, too. Like forbiding to your itchy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I finally did because I always felt I was bothering her too much, my doctor, because she was so generous with her time that I never, we always joke my sister-in-law had Dr. Sulky, too, and it would email her at the level that one time she said, I think my baby's broken into 2 parts in the womb. Like a lot of emails going back, like neurotic mom emails. And she always answered all so with such kindness, generosity.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
She's special. She's really, her heart's into it still.
Yeah.
She hasn't burned out like your other doctors.
Like you.
Of course. So how far apart are these 2 babies going to be?
They're going to be 2 years and 4 months.
Do you know what you're having?
I do.
You're not saying?
No.
Really?
That's nice.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
No, of course. Kacy, do you want to guess?
What do you think,
don't
Kacy?
know. I would love if you had a girl because I'm always so happy for people when they have
Salt
one
and
of each
pepper?
sex.
Yeah.
But I had 2 sisters, and then
Oh.
there's something so magical about having same sex too
Yeah.
for siblings.
Yeah.
So the good thing is you can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong at the end of the day.
No.
Of course, one wants certain things, but
Of course.
one doesn't always get
Well, you
them.
know.
Also,
we
I do.
can't- Yeah, we can
girl
answer
I'll
that.
tell you
Clothing?
guys later.
I think it's
pretty
Caucasian.
Well,
You would be
TBD.
wrong.
I could be wrong. I don't
TBD.
know. I think
Luckily, my husband genuinely is colorblind.
it's, really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
He's not facial blind like you, but
I'm
that
face
would help
blind.
too.
Yeah. I think, on the ultrasound, we have to fix this. On
Do
the
you recognize your children? That's a genuine
No,
question.
No. I just went to pick up my daughter from school. She has a tutor, and usually the tutor drops her off, but we
And
were
you
going
put
out.
the tutor in the car seat.
This buckle doesn't fit anymore. Tomorrow you got to cut back. So she, I couldn't find her. I had to ask people, like, which one's my kid.
That's a tough ask.
I mean, luckily they know me. But, they wear uniforms. It's a private school. They have uniforms. And there's, 20 milky white, 8-year-old Orthodox Jew kids. They all look the same to me.
Wow.
So your husband's colorblind, but the ultrasound is colorblind. All the babies are white.
Needs to become a little more progressive.
Yeah.
I think so.
Ultrasounds.
We should work on that.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a little switch or a sensor.
I have a question. Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I don't want to interrupt
What,
your
are you
flow,
kidding?
Dr.
No,
B.
my flow has flowed.
But do you feel like, you grew up in a super political family, so I wonder if it's different, but do you feel like you've gotten more political after having children?
100%.
Yeah.
I do. I was pretty political before in the sense of, I was campaigning with Hillary the last election, and I feel kind of guilty, not guilty, but this time I felt like she's got it,
Right.
and there's so much humongous celebrities behind her. But when she was going up against Barack Obama, it was myself and Sean Astin. And she didn't feel she had the muscle. But I think, yes, because especially I think, I don't know, I'm sure people listen to, I don't know anyone's political beliefs, but I've gotten a real wake-up call just with this election, but also certainly having kids. And
Yes.
I'm much more interested in politics on the local level, which
Yes.
kind of has surprised me. Mm-hmm. Of I'm really passionate about doing public schooling and getting into investing in that and community and kind of more local than I was thinking broader. Mm-hmm. But now I just care about my kids. No, I'm kidding. My kids. No.
Well, I think most people really get very focused on the presidential elections every 4 years, and there's so much more you can do with the state and local elections.
Yeah.
And they happen all the time.
It's true.
You don't have to wait for the 4 years. Can we talk about your podcast?
Please.
Bitch Sesh.
Yes.
How did that come about?
That was actually came about because I had my son and I wanted to be creative.
Okay.
But as I mentioned, I gained quite a bit of weight, which is nothing wrong with that. I think it actually happens to a lot more women than you hear. You feel like everyone just gains 25 pounds, and that's just not what I've seen.
That's what the book says.
From anyone.
No.
So I'm not putting it down at all, but I was like, God, I think I would want to do a podcast because there's just something freeing about getting to I'm nursing, I'm in my jammies, and I thought, what is the topic I'm most passionate about and what's the most important now? And that was the Real Housewives. So my good dear friend Danielle Schneider and I just were like, let's just do it and we'll be screaming into the void and no one will care. But it's actually been found this, I say this humbly, but like rabid and disturbing fan base.
Well,
Disturbingly large fan base.
How do you have time to watch them all?
Honestly, it's become a chore. It has. First, it was
can't
bringing
even keep
joy.
track
Now
of
I'm
them
like, oh.
What's your favorite one?
Oh, gosh. I think I love Real Housewives of Atlanta and New York. And, I love them all. They're like my kids. I can't.
I like your kids. What about the spin-offs like Southern Charm? And
Oh, of course. I cover all of them. We're investigative journalists.
what about the one under the boat? Do you
I
do the
don't
boat
go
one?
below deck.
You don't go below
No.
deck.
Danielle goes below deck. My partner, I will not.
That just sounds like it means something else.
It does.
don't
And I
even know
think
what
it
it sounds
means,
like it means.
everything.
Below deck.
Yeah.
She goes below deck.
Yeah.
You have standards.
I do. I do. Yeah.
What else? Are there other ones?
That we cover, other
Like
shows
Summer
we
House?
cover.
Is there Summer?
Yeah, we have correspondents too.
Oh, you've
yeah.
got a network.
Well, we have a chief correspondent, and then we have many lifestyle experts and correspondents who will send us voice memos and cover other shows that we don't care to cover. But also we'll do like Big Little Lies if anything that's happening. We'll
But it's
try
a lot to watch.
We're finding time.
You're making it.
Priorities,
We're
man.
making it work.
Make it work.
Many times I've heard my son crying, and a podcast was coming up, and I'm like watching
I am
women
working.
scream at
You hear it
each
in
other.
the background? You hear it in the background?
We all have to work.
That's brilliant.
And I'd like to remind listeners, I'm not being paid for it. The podcast.
Oh. It's a labor of love.
Yeah, when you love something.
I can't, because I am face blind, they all look exactly the same to me. It's
Yes.
impossible to follow.
That would be a very hard show for you to.
can't
You just
do it.
and all their voices are just high pitched screaming.
They're all they sound the same, they look the same, and then the music just is always the same. It's
Yep,
just
that's what I love about it.
And then it's over. I'm like, what happened? Then I have to listen to
So
your
much
podcast,
happened.
Bitch Sesh, which is on iTunes
Yeah,
and Stitcher
yeah,
and others
yeah.
every week.
Every week.
That's dedication.
Yeah, we're touring with it.
What does
This
that
summer.
look like?
We're going to like 10 cities and just performing. We do live shows. It's really just a comedy show. That is the framework is the Real Housewives, but it's so
you're-
much more.
Are you
have to be
you're,
there to
Incredible.
I see, but you're going to
love
record a
it.
podcast in front of a live audience?
We do, but sometimes we don't release the live shows. Live shows have song and dance numbers. They have
OMG.
we have a lot of listeners will send us like fights that are going on. And for instance, we had one. These PTA moms were trying to plan Pajama Day, Teacher Appreciation Day, and they sent 45 emails back and forth to each other. The most nasty things. So we've done like stage readings of that, and we just do a lot
What
of
cities? You're going to 10 cities during the pregnancy.
in June and July.
Oh, my God.
And it's just the two of you?
The two of us, our intrepid reporter / our assistant April, and my baby.
I love it.
Yeah.
But you're also doing other
You guys
stuff.
should take this on the road.
Yeah, people want this on the road.
Similar audience,
People want-
probably.
They don't just want to listen in the car
We'll open
and
for
working
you.
out. What? But you're also working other stuff.
I mean, yeah, I shot a pilot and just waiting to hear, and my business is sort of up and down with work.
But you're a great writer.
Well, I don't think you've read anything.
No, but I'm just
Are
saying.
you
I would sign you for writing.
literature blind as well?
No. But I am ADD, so reading is hard.
With all this stuff,
I'm feeling for you.
I can be your doctor, too.
with all this stuff going on, how do you balance? I mean, it's such a loaded question, but like especially with your husband, how do you balance having time with your husband, for you, and then with your
That's what
son?
I was wondering.
It's a great question. I mean, it's very hard, as you know, and I think you well know. I don't know. And I don't ever think, I'm never sitting here going like, I did that. I did it great. I don't know. I mean, I think, I'm just thinking about that. I think some days you're like, wow, I'm so glad I took that time with my husband. And then other days I'm like, oh, I feel like I haven't even seen him. And
Right.
my biggest struggle has been work and my son.
Mm-hmm.
And then my husband and we have been pretty good actually from an early age. And I know this might be controversial, but we really kind of made it integrated into our son Max's life a bit that like sometimes he's going to be with his grandparents. Like he's very comfortable around a lot of people. We're not afraid to leave him for the night or go do stuff or try to separate a little from him. And we're not like leaving him for weeks, but
nice.
just we
plus,
go out, we do stuff. We try not to.
He gets a lot more time with you than the kids in Redondo Beach.
I barely am seeing them, and
I'm
I
just
feel
saying.
very bad about. I hadn't even thought of them.
Oh, sorry. I have someone, I go to the house. She talks about because she has a boy. She always says, I have my boy in the freezer, my boy in the freezer, my boy in the freezer. And one day I went over and she's like, we got Klondike bars. You want one? Just go get it from the freezer. I'm like, spooky.
Yeah.
Eat your kid by accident.
I opened a bill and somehow I've like forgotten to send my storage facility fee. I was like, oh, I gotta pay for these.
Yeah, what did they do?
They're
with
gonna
them?
thaw these
auction.
babies.
They put them up on auction.
Yeah. There's not a power outage in Redondo.
How do you think your son will react to another baby in the house?
Maybe I'm naive to think. I think he'll be okay with it.
Are you doing things to prep him for it?
No, I am. I mean, to finish answering your question, because I think they go together. My son is I don't want to say he's independent, but I've done a lot of, and I know it's kind of hippie. I feel like I'm like a part rye parent and part like whatever the fuck works kind of is my parenting philosophy. And he does play independently very well, and he is comfortable with other people, and he rolls with things. And I don't know how much of that is him or we're pretty laid back, I think. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. I take certain things incredibly seriously, but we're pretty like, nah, and he kind of has that adaptability that all comedians must have because of deep pain.
Deep pain.
Yeah.
I think that's where the sense of humor, though, comes in really handy, though.
I do, too.
Just being able to laugh at things when they're not going exactly right lets you move on.
Mm-hmm. I think so, too. I found so much comfort and strength in that, which is just like, I'll get so frustrated with parenting or I'll be crying, and I'm really, really hard on myself as a parent, not my friends. I mean, I think everyone, when I look at other moms, I'm like, God, it's amazing. Everyone's doing their best and they're doing such a great job. And I find myself not being judgmental, but with myself, I'm like, why didn't you put him in the car seat better? And it's like this running monologue of hate sometimes that is my biggest thing to try to get over, but the humor has helped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, that kind of stuff makes you funnier.
I think.
It does.
More material.
More material.
I mean, I think that's why you have kids, because you're going to screw up, and that gives you, I mean, soon you'll have enough material to do stand-up.
Oh, gosh. I mean, it's funny. Like, I have been in therapy in my life, but I think having a kid, and this isn't necessarily humor, although humor has come out of it, I think you really have to kind of reevaluate your own childhood and, like, your own life and go back, and it's painful, and kind of figure out, like, why am I so hard on myself, or why am I trying to be so great, or whatever. It's like the triggers from your own life come up. I'm finding, or at least I'm feeling that right now.
Yes. I know exactly.
It's difficult.
What you mean. Yeah, it's a whole other element that I don't think anybody's prepared for that.
No, and I really had no idea that would come up.
No. Yeah.
Because I consider myself someone who's, been in therapy, and I've tried to make sense of my life, and I'm kind of at peace with it, but then it's like, whew.
Yeah, I think you're cruising along.
Yeah.
I know.
Especially also, sorry to add one more thing, but when you're parenting with someone else and they've got all their stuff and the way they were raised, and, we're all frantically trying to not make the mistakes our parents did, so then that's bumping up against whatever I'm trying to fix. And
Do you have a parenting inspiration?
In terms of people, or
like somebody who you're like, she's got
I
it.
do actually. My best friend from growing up, Amanda, she's a child psychologist, which I think you would think that like she's got it so together, and she does, but not in the way that you would think. Like, she's so laid back. I have not used this word in years, but it is marvelous.
Oh.
It truly is. She only prioritizes quality time and like quality interactions, but For instance, this is just one tip of many. She has 3 boys. She works full time. She's really busy. She's got such great energy and joy being around her kids. But like when she does the laundry, she throws it all on top of a bed. And everyone has to root through it to find their clothes every morning.
Oh.
Like she's up to stuff that's like, and you have to have the personality where that doesn't bother you.
Right.
Oh, no, I'm just glad we're not the only ones.
Yeah, but like she's truly just like, I don't have time to do that. And I choose to not do that.
3 kids. You know, that's a sick amount of laundry. Our
Yeah.
machine, we have 4 kids. Our machine never shuts off.
Exactly. And she's just like, I will be cutting corners, but not like the kind of emotional
important
quality corners.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I admire her. Everything, I'll call her, I'll be like, oh my God. And then I didn't. She's like, it's totally fine. It doesn't matter. Like, everything's good. She's just
Right.
like, it's all good. Like,
Right.
whereas I'm like, but I don't know. This preschool, like, might not be the right one. You know, just whatever.
So, I mean, I always picture, because you have to audition, I picture auditions being so emotionally stressful.
Yeah.
Is it for you?
I mean, I was saying to Kacy before, I guess having been on Saturday Night Live, in some ways I'm less, that was such a Herculean experience that maybe that's akin to having your first kid and then your second one's easier because you're like, oh, I kind of did that already, went through the hard parts of that. But to me, auditioning is, maybe I'm just used to it or I have that kind of, I'm not saying I certainly dislike it.
You
but
don't dislike it?
I do
You
dislike
do
it,
dislike
but it's not, I don't.
But you have to have a certain, like, I picture like a traveling, I don't know, vacuum salesman. You got to knock on 99 doors and it's the 100th door that opens up for you, right? But you still have to knock every time with your A game as if that's going to be the one that sells.
Yeah.
But it's a
Although
certain
I really
personality
find
that can do
parenting harder, to be honest. Like,
it's a different hard.
yeah.
It's a different hard. How was Saturday Night Live?
I mean, it was fine. It wasn't great. It was a really hard job, and I think it wasn't a total perfect fit for me. It felt a little like, you know, if you're sitting on the bench at a sports team and you're like, I want them to put me in, and I feel like I'm not really a part of things. Or like I'm at a party and no one introduced me.
Right.
It was like the feeling, the general feeling. So it wasn't great, but it was also a lot of joy, but it's a tough job.
Yeah. Do you like live
I think it's a tough
audiences?
job even for the people that are like really, really succeeding at it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Sounds
like live
layered.
Yes.
Shall we say?
Yeah. You guys are like, are you crying?
Yeah. We have a little tissue for you. Do you have a plan for the for this birth?
I don't. You know, my view on birth plans is maybe controversial, but I am not. You know, I had written mine out, and I was like, I'm going to march it right into Cedars and give it to the nurses. And actually, because my birth was so haphazard, and I got there and I didn't even have a cell phone charger, that I was talking to this one nurse at Cedars, and she said something that blew my mind. She said, with love, and this is with all due respect to anyone, however, anyone does anything, she's like, the women that come here with their plan of like, no matter what, no C-section, and this, that, the other, she goes, we just go out on the board out front and we write C-section. I know that's very hard to hear, but she's just like, the universe will deliver. It's like, she's like, it ends up being what happened, that the more strident you are and the more dead set against a certain thing, it just ends up being that the universe challenges you with it.
Right.
And she's like, but the moms that are kind of coming in and just like, obviously I don't want a C-section, but here I'm flexible.
Yeah.
They seem to have a easier time of
You
it.
put a lot
That
less
totally
pressure on
makes
yourself.
sense.
Yeah, and not again. There's nothing wrong with. I had my birth plan all typed up. I just couldn't hand it in.
Yeah.
And it literally said in like all caps in the bottom, like no C-section, and like all over it.
But it
so
worked. You didn't have one.
yeah, it did.
I do have another question. Do you have a question?
Yeah,
I
I
see you
do.
thinking there.
I think about this. I didn't grow up here either in LA, and I know you didn't either. And how do you feel about? Because I'm thinking about this a lot too. But what do you think about raising a kid in Los Angeles?
Ooh.
Does it make you nervous?
You're asking the hard-hitting questions, Kacy.
I'm gonna just be quiet and pay attention.
It has me absolutely terrified. But it's funny because like my parents grew up in Kansas City and they couldn't have imagined raising their kids in DC.
Right.
And then, so I guess I think we're probably more terrified than hopefully what the results will be. But
I'm sure.
I also think I'm trying to, where I can, like I said, and we'll see what the future holds, and don't hold me to it, but I'm interested in public school. I'm interested in trying to do what I think this town is incredibly segregated in some ways, both racially and financially, and I don't know. That's the real bummer to me about this town. As much as I love LA, I kind of, in a perfect world, I want my son to be in this incredibly diverse environment where, there's all different socioeconomic infrastructure. Everyone's different, but yet it seems like
Potomac.
Those places don't exist. You're either like incredibly wealthy and spending $50,000 a year on private school, and then the people that go there and that you're surrounded with have that kind of wealth. That scares me for some reason.
Right.
But at the same time, you want the best education for your kids. So I'm kind of thinking about and trying to think about how can I invest my time now for public schools. And so I don't know. I have no answer, and that was the long-winded way of saying it. I'm nervous about it. And
where would be better?
What do you mean?
Than LA.
I mean, like, is there anywhere else you'd rather
who
live?
knows?
Like every place seems to have its ups and downs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially Redondo.
Yeah, they're getting a very good education in Redondo. I don't know. To answer your question,
public schools.
The amount of privilege kind of scares me out here, and I think there's a lot of entitlement that, I don't know, a lot of kids that grow up if their parents are famous or whatever in LA, there is a feeling of like, I don't know, I struggle. These are my own personal issues with kind of unearned wealth and unearned things, and so I'm just like, how can I try to keep my son grounded and kind of, it's like everyone has to work for everything that they have.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to
It was
that.
like the Warren Buffett mentality.
Warren Buffett was my father. No, I'm just kidding.
I knew it.
He gave me, I have quite a trust fund. I'm just kidding.
Well,
basically, I'm a great person, Kacy, so I just want to be grounded and,
And, like, hopefully they turn out, like, just like me.
Yeah, pretty much.
thank you for coming. I know you got to race home to your kid.
Thank you, guys.
And where do we find you online?
On Twitter, I'm Kacy Rose Wilson, and same on Instagram.
You added the Rose. Was there another Kacy Wilson? Why not Catherine?
Kacy's giving
Why
me
not
a
Catherine?
I don't know. My parents named me Catherine.
Catherine Rose.
Catherine Rose.
That
But then called me Kacy since I was little.
Catherine Rose.
That's
sounds
so interesting.
Sort of like your father won. It's kind of more of a.
I
Republican
know.
name.
Well, that's the thing. My mom wanted something more fun.
Right.
And they called me Kacy.
Oh, so she really won.
But now my last name is Casp, so Kacy Casp sounds like a stripper or a newscaster.
But kind of in a good way.
I think.
I
Or
like
somebody
it.
that's a newscaster during the day and a stripper at night.
Yes.
Kacy Casp.
We can do anything in America, guys.
That's right.
Kacy Rose Wilson.
Yes.
And on Twitter?
Yeah.
Do you tweet a lot?
I do here and there. I'm more on Instagram, and Grandma is not on Snapchat.
Oh. Oh, you're not on the Snapchat? That was my cutoff, too. I can't. First of all,
really
it's a
wanna
ghost.
Are
Boo.
you?
No, I have it. I don't.
Yes, I have it.
I can take
course, we
pictures
all love
with
the
it.
filters,
Yeah,
but-
the best. But no, I can hardly work Instagram.
Instagram.
So
We're getting aged out.
that's a whole other topic. Social media.
We'll be
kids.
back. Will you come back and talk about social
tuned
media?
for the next
Yes.
episode.
God. Please.
And Bitch Sesh on podcast
Yes, on
syndicates
iTunes.
everywhere. And the tour goes when? July and August? June, July.
Yeah, June and July.
So you'll come back pretty, pregnant.
Yeah. Ready to go.
Is this pregnancy, because you said last time you were not happy with how much weight you gained, but you're doing different things differently now.
Well, how do you know you can't recognize me from when I looked like that or this?
What do you mean?
With your facial blindness.
It's
Are you
just
body
your
blind?
Face. I'm not body blind. Hell no.
I wish you were. Remember me looking like Kacy. I am trying to do better this time. I'm certainly not dieting. I'm just trying to, as I call it, batten down the hatches.
Okay. But it's working. I mean, you
We're
feel
halfway.
better?
I feel claustrophobic like every day. I'm like,
You do?
I want to.
Like there's no more room?
I just like to, I'm a woman of excess. I'm a Scorpio. For anyone following this astrologically. I like to eat, I like to drink, and everything being pregnant just feels like,
Oh, so everything's
what a
off
bummer.
limits. That
Yeah.
reminds me of Anna. She felt that way too.
Yeah,
But then she went to Dr. Goldberg and he said you could have whatever you want.
that's true.
Anyway, you do have to go. So
Thank you, guys. This was a pleasure.
thank you so much for being here.
for
And
having me.
we're going to find you online. And I want to come to you. Are you doing one here in LA?
We do a show at Largo on La Cienega every 2 months. We do a live show.
Okay.
No?
I'm going to be there.
Okay.
You'll see me, but I won't recognize you.
That's how
I'm
we say
gonna
to everyone
go
when you-
watch the Housewives so I can like be on the up and
What
up.
I will
But,
say is,
but they're the same. That's your show.
and what I will say is, so many viewers, have never watched a Housewives episode.
But shouldn't I maybe
But-
like watch a few and then come
I
see?
mean, yes, but no.
Okay.
Largo.
Also, it's
what day of the
okay
week?
if you- Thursday nights.
They're usually Thursday nights.
Yeah, at 8:30.
I'm going to come. You want to go, Kacy?
Let's not commit anyone. I don't want anyone to feel pressure.
But I don't.
Oh no,
And I do.
I'm totally.
Okay.
I need to have a little more housewife in my
Yeah,
life.
you'll have fun.
Thank you for listening to the Informed Pregnancy.
I thought you were
Thank
saying
you.
thanking me again. I was like, thanks. Sorry, continue.
Thank you for listening to the Informed Pregnancy and Parenting Podcast. Share us with your friends so they can make informed choices and empowered decisions too. For more information on today's guest, together with our blog, documentaries, and other pregnancy and parenting resources, visit informedpregnancy.com.